Welcome to the Emergency Food and Shelter Program Application webinar. This webinar will provide an overview of the Emergency Food and Shelter Program, also known as EFSP. In this webinar, we will discuss the local board funding priorities, allocations for Phase 39, and the American Rescue Plan Act, also known as ARPA. We will also provide information on agency eligibility, EFSP allowable expenditures, agency responsibilities, and the RFP/application instructions. At the end of the webinar, we will provide contact information for future questions. The EFSP program was created in 1983 to supplement and expand the work of local social service agencies to help people with economic emergencies. It was not created to be a part of the remedial process dealing with the chronically homeless, and the funding must not be used for that population. FEMA chairs the National Board and awards the grants. United Way Worldwide is the secretariat and fiscal agent for the National Board. All funding is distributed by the United Way Worldwide. Next, let's go over the role of the National Board and the local board. EFSP is governed by a national board that selects jurisdictions for funding. The National Board uses a formula to distribute funds based on population, unemployment rate, and other factors at the federal level. Local boards are convened in the selected jurisdictions to determine the highest need and best use of funds. The local board will select the local recipient organization, also known as LRO, that will provide emergency food and shelter services. Local boards may consider prior years of grant performance upon the selection of LRO. Prior grant recipients are not guaranteed grant selection. Local boards set the client eligibility criteria. The local board also provides technical assistance. Additionally, local boards monitor the LRO in their use of EFSP funds and meet quarterly to review expenditures. Local boards will reallocate funds if determined the LRO is not spending awarded funds properly or in a timely manner. The LRO must comply with the local board's decisions. The Clark County Local Board has developed the following foundational statement. It is our fiduciary responsibility to timely disperse these dollars to the community through organizations that have existing programs and that have both the capacity and ability to efficiently and effectively use these funds. Among other things, the duty of our local board is to ensure enhanced collaboration among community resources. It is our belief that the LRO should utilize EFSP funding to obtain optimal buying power for the services provided. The Clark County Local Board has developed funding priorities. The first funding priority is to serve a geographically diverse area of Clark County. The local board will look to provide funding to organizations who provide services throughout Clark County so that as many citizens as possible have access to EFSP funds. We encourage organizations to apply that serve countywide and especially those that are in an underserved community or neighborhood. The LRO will be required to serve all eligible individuals or families and may not limit services to any specific population. The Clark County Local Board will also serve a range of populations that are most in need, including the following: families and individuals newly experiencing unemployment and financial instability, seniors who are on fixed incomes or experiencing added financial burdens of guardianship of grandchildren or other strains, physically or mentally disabled individuals or families with disabled members, veterans, Native Americans, and transitional-aged youth who are unaccompanied and/or just moved out of the foster care system. The local board seeks to equitably fund as much food, shelter, rent/mortgage, and utility assistance as necessary to meet the current need in our community. Also, due to a limited level of funds available to Clark County, each LRO is expected to leverage their buying power for the purchase of the items needed. The local board requires that each LRO provide evidence that they have achieved optimal buying power. Narrative questions have been added to the application to provide this detail. Now, let's discuss the Emergency Food and Shelter Program appropriations. Clark County has been awarded $1,419,094 for Phase 39 and $4,386,085 for ARPA. The Clark County Local Board will use a common consistent criteria, judging each application equally to award funds into the community. Phases 39 and ARPA will run concurrently. Now we'll go over agency eligibility. All agencies must have a Federal Employer Identification Number and a Data Universal Number System number. Organizations must have 501(c)(3) status or must utilize the Federal Employer Identification Number of a fiscal agent and provide the agreement between agencies. Agencies must have a volunteer board of directors. Agencies must practice non-discrimination for service provision and not require religious participation. Please note you will be required to submit a copy of your agency's non-discrimination policy with your materials. Agency eligibility will also depend on the submission of audits. All applicants must submit an audit. This will include an A-133 audit, audited financials, or an annual certified financial statement. Applicants must submit one of the following with their application. The first option is an A-133. This is for organizations that expended $750,000 or more in the previous year in federal awards, shall have a single or program-specific audit that A-133 conducted for that year. The second option are audited financials. Agencies with revenue of $200,000 to $749,999 must submit financial statements audited by a CPA. And the third option are annual certified financial statements acts. Agencies with revenue less than $199,999 must submit an ACFS in addition to their IRS stamped copy of their most recent IRS 990 form. Additionally, agencies must have a disaster recovery plan. They must maintain documentation for 3 years after the end of each phase. This includes final reports and all financial documentation. They must provide services within the intent of the program, must have a valid checking account, and must use appropriate accounting systems. Eligible agencies must also currently provide food, utility, and/or shelter services. They must use EFSP funds to supplement existing food and shelter programs. They cannot use funds to supplement income for assets managed, for example, housing properties. Eligible agencies must also be listed in Nevada 211. Now we'll review EFSP eligible expenditures. Money cannot be used for emergency assistance that is the immediate result of a disaster situation. For example, a flood, fire, or act of nature. EFSP is a needs-based program for which clients must qualify. Funds are only to be used for residents and transients within Clark County. Agencies must expend EFSP dollars continuously. EFSP money cannot be used on a monthly budget basis. For example, the LRO allocation cannot be divided into the number of months to provide funding. EFSP dollars must be used continuously to meet the demand and need in Clark County. Dollars not spent in a timely manner or improperly will be reallocated to another agency. The local board reserves the right to audit an agency's service delivery at any time during the funding cycle, which may include site visits. Funds may not be used for administrative expenses to administer the EFSP program and funds. Please note, any ineligible expenses found to be spent during the program phase or during the final report process of EFSP may be required to be paid back to the National Board. We will now review LRO responsibilities. EFSP is broken up into several program categories that provide assistance throughout Clark County. Agencies may receive funds to provide food services, including but not limited to served meals. The served meals category is intended to allow mass feeding facilities to pay for the purchase of food items, items used to prepare and serve food, and other food-related items to assist in the mass feeding of eligible clients. For mass feeding facilities, there are 2 options for eligible costs. The LRO must use only one method throughout the entire spending phase. One option is direct costs. Agencies may use EFSP funds to purchase food items and supplies essential to prepare meals on-site in a mass feeding facility. The second option for the served meals category is per diem allowance. Agencies may use the per diem allowance of exactly $3 per meal. The other food category is intended to allow agencies such as food pantries/banks to pay for the purchase of food items, food vouchers, and food gift cards to assist in the feeding of eligible clients. Another program category is shelter assistance. Shelter assistance consists of mass shelter, other shelter, also referred to as hotel, motel, and rent/mortgage. The mass shelter category is intended to allow mass shelter providers to provide on-site housing for clients. There are two options for eligible costs: direct costs and per diem allowance. The LRO must use only one method throughout the entire spending phase. With the direct cost option, agencies may use EFSP funds to purchase supplies essential to shelter individuals in a mass shelter. The per diem allowance option allows the agency to use the per diem allowance to cover operational costs as well as direct expenditures. The local board has approved a rate of $12.50 per person. The other shelter category is intended to allow agencies to provide off-site emergency housing for clients. Agencies may not operate as vendors for themselves or another LRO. Self-billing is not eligible with EFSP funding. The rent/mortgage category is intended to allow agencies to pay the rent or mortgage per qualifying clients. Each household may receive this assistance up to 3 times per phase. The utilities category is intended to allow agencies to pay up to 90 days of a past due billed amount of a metered, electric, gas, water, or non-metered, propane, firewood, coal, utility bill for qualifying clients. Clark County Local Board has established an application process to ensure all qualified agencies can submit applications in an orderly manner. Applications that do not meet all of the program requirements in the eligibility checklist or do not submit all the necessary documentation will not be accepted or reviewed. There will be no exceptions. All RFP must be submitted via SurveyMonkey by the deadline of February 11, 2022 at 11:59 p.m. There will be no time extension for the deadline. If you have previously submitted the requested attachments for another program or funding process at United Way of Southern Nevada, you still must attach the requested items to the EFSP application. EFSP is not a United Way of Southern Nevada funded program, and therefore all materials are separate. Agencies may submit multiple applications. Each application may request funds for more than one program within a category, up to 3 applications. Please submit a separate application for each category of service. Food, pantry/food bank, served meals, shelter, rent/mortgage, hotel/motel, mass shelter, utilities. Agencies must not request funds from EFSP for more than 50% of the program budget. Application materials can be found on the United Way of Southern Nevada website. Please note the application materials are for reference use only. All applications must be submitted through SurveyMonkey Apply. This is an example of the RFP budget form. Under Section A, Program Category, please use the drop-down menu to select the funding category for which this budget applies. For example, if your agency is applying for shelter, please select Shelter Service. Under the type of assistance, list out the subcategories such as mass shelter, hotel/motel, and rent/mortgage. Please note you do not have to request funding in all categories in order to apply. The Unit of Service tab will self-populate based on the response in the first column. The total program budget will be the total budget for that specific service. Please note in the example how the program budgets are separate for all the subcategories. In Section C, you will find your total program category budget, the total program category EFSP request, and the percentage of program funded by EFSP. Please remember that your EFSP fund request must not exceed 50% of the total budget of your program. Here is a brief review for submitting an RFP. Key information is all included within the application on SurveyMonkey Apply. All agencies must provide budget spreadsheets, audited financials, board roster, and a 990. When answering the application questions, please be sure to be as concise and clear as possible with your responses. Grant reviewers will read and rate each application. Each application can receive a possible total score of 100. All RFP must be submitted online on SurveyMonkey Apply by the deadline of February 11, 2022. There will be no extension for the deadline. RFPs sent to other email addresses at United Way of Southern Nevada, hand-delivered or mailed, will not be accepted. Agencies are encouraged to submit their RFP prior to the deadline with the understanding that they will not be reviewed until after the deadline when all RFP have been received. In order to apply for EFSP Phase 39 and ARPA, go to the provided link to SurveyMonkey Apply. Log into your account. If you do not have an account, please create one and verify it via email. Fill out the eligibility form. The passcode Clark County EFSP is required. Make sure you have all the documents needed in order to submit your proposal. Submit your proposal before the deadline. It is highly recommended that you submit your proposal/application at least 24 hours in advance in order to allocate enough time for technical problems. The deadline will not be extended. If you have any questions or concerns, please contact efsp@uwsn.org. For a better SurveyMonkey Apply experience, please use Google Chrome. The Phase 39 and ARPA application timeline can be found on the United Way of Southern Nevada website below this application webinar. The grant period will be from November 1, 2021 to April 30, 2023. All applications must be submitted by Friday, February 11, 2022 at 11:59 p.m. Allocation recommendation announcements will be made on Friday, February 25, 2022. Appeals must be submitted from February 25 to March 7, 2022. Allocation recommendations will be submitted to the National Board by Friday, March 11. To recap, this application webinar will be available until February 11, 2022. Agencies may submit one application per category, up to 3 total. The deadline for the online submission is February 11th, 11:59 p.m. All RFP/applications must be submitted via SurveyMonkey Apply. No other form of submission will be accepted. Awards will be announced after February 25th. Use this SurveyMonkey Apply link to obtain access to the EFSP application. The password Clark County EFSP is required. Thank you for your interest in applying for EFSP funding and for serving the community of Southern Nevada. For technical assistance, please contact Tom Mika Ortiz at United Way of Southern Nevada. For EFSP national information, go to www.efspunitedway.org.